We start off with Tim the alpaca being chased by someone who we don't know at all. But first, we have to tell them who Tim is. He's a student of Cherryton Academy, which is a boarding school for herbivores and carnivores of the light. Next, we see him run into the classroom, and then it's rest in pieces for him.
Now, we're introduced to more students of Cherryton Academy, which, from right to left, is Megunu the hyena, Durham the coyote, Boss the fennec fox, Call it the English sheepdog, then lastly we have everyone's favorite Labrador,
Gasp!
The first proper following of a character we have is Jack, who's at the brunt of being shunned for being a carnivore after Tim's death, as is revealed to us by the student. In this world, we have carnivores and herbivores and everything in between living together as peacefully as they can for being predators and prey, which is a main recurring issue. Every so often, a herbivore is killed/eaten by a carnivore, yet they still have to somehow manage to live together. Even so, the carnivores usually are ostracized pretty often by everyone, so there's methods such laws in place for them to act more tame, I guess, for the herbivores. Jack is told to take a contact list for the drama club to his roommate Legoshi. Since Legoshi is a carnivore, they're unwilling to do it themselves. Speaking of Legoshi, we see him watching from a distance. Now we're meeting the drama club members as they conversate about Tim's death and having to find a replacement for him. It is here we learn that Tim was a member of the drama club as an actor. His death has caused a divide between the carnivores and herbivores of the club. During some heated arguing amongst them, the lights turn off, and as they turn back on, we're properly introduced to Legoshi, which, if you only seen the anime, will surprise you from how his design is here. It seems like Bill is calling to Legoshi and asking him to come down and explain himself since he's a good friend of Tim. Legoshi complies and climbs down the ladder head first. Yes, Legoshi is visibly weirder in the manga. Legoshi explains how he thinks Tim had things he wanted to do and that he had regrets too. That's what anyone who'd die before getting to do them. Then he cracks open a walnut for Sally the squirrel, who, during the opening scene to the drama club, was needing help to open them. Then Legoshi asks Els, who was an Angora goat, how she felt about his death. She responds very distantly to avoid answering honestly here. After that encounter, Els is left worrying about why Legoshi was so fixated on her the whole time in the drama club, and she thinks that he intends to eat her next. Now we're in the male locker room as Legoshi's got taken something from Tim's locker by Bill. Legoshi explains how Tim borrowed a book from him and was retrieving it. Sanu, who is a pelican and the head of the club, eases the tension by suggesting to just trust Legoshi, but then reminds him to be more cautious about his actions since he's a large carnivore. Legoshi brushes it off and has something more important to do, which we see right here as he ominously was waiting for Els in the drama club room. Legoshi knew Els would come here to look for a watch, I guess. Yes, he's creepier in the manga. Now, Els is getting cornered by Legoshi as he talks about Tim. Els gets more frightened as he gets closer, and she grabs a pair of scissors to defend herself against him. But Legoshi easily grabs her hand to make them useless, and we're finally revealed that he was just trying to give a love letter to Tim. Right at the end. But Legoshi easily grabs her hand to make them useless, and we're finally revealed that he was just trying to give a love letter to Els that was from Tim. After that weird encounter, Els and Legoshi are talking in another area's window. Legoshi explains that he was waiting to give her the letter when she's alone since others see him in a bad way after what happened to Tim. Now we understand a bit more of Legoshi's weird ways as well as Els now. Then we end the chapter with Legoshi cringily saying he's used to being feared and hated, as well as more details about him.
Chapter 2 starts off with a showing of a shrine made for Tim outside the classroom he died, as a tapir named Mark is grieving and shows us a cover of the play Tim was supposed to be in. We're interrupted by Best Boy Jack as he calls out to Mark. When they get closer together, Jack noticed the pamphlet for the drama club Mark's holding. Mark mentions that Tim the alpaca was a member of the club. It is kind of weird how lots of times when saying characters' names, they also say their species as well. Then they walk together to Mark's mailbox, and when he opens it, a lot of letters fall out. Jack is surprised and asks if he got all of that today. Mark tells us why he received so many, because herbivore families are more worried due to the recent murder. Then we get this horse student arriving who is a friend of Mark that immediately notices Jack and asks why a dog is at the herbivore building. Mark stands up for Jack, and Jack takes the racism like a champ and apologizes, then says he'll be leaving. Not until Mark tries to give some advice to Jack about choosing his friends wisely, since he shares a room with a hyena and a wolf. Well, Bugueno and Lugoshi he's referring to here. Jack, being the nice doggo he is, says thanks, but of course, snarkily looks at Mark's horse friend while thinking the same back. Now, we're finally seeing Canine Room 701, which is of course pretty messy, since they're all canines. This room is where Lugoshi, Jack, Mugueno, Collett, Voss, and Durham all stay on campus. By the window, Jack is sitting there with Lugoshi, who has a small beetle on his finger. Jack mentions how Lugoshi likes bugs, and Lugoshi tells us they don't scare him, as long as they don't try to hurt him. Lugoshi related to this to the drama club people. This gives Jack a segue to talk about the play, and we learn that Lugoshi doesn't have any roles in it. We're now given a summary of the play from Lugoshi, which Adler the Reaper is trying to hunt the soul of a girl. But the girl convinces Adler to go on a journey to find her a place to die. And after that they realize the joy of life, but end up dying at the end of the story. Jack says that it sounds sad, and asks if he likes the story. Then Edgelord Lugoshi says he likes tragedies as a genre. Nothing else too important in that segment aside from seeing Mugueno in his underwear.
Oh yeah.
Looks like we're outside and being introduced to another member of the drama club, Kai, who is a mongoose. He's been reading the script to Adler for 2 days and has been in minor roles from what these two students tell us. Then a brief flashback shows us that Tim was chosen for a bigger role of Odie the Water Spirit, when Kai was wanting it. Kai is returning to the drama club and sees a goat member shirtless. And we're told that they're getting the role of Odie. Even the goat member says he's surprised he got the role when Kai and Tim were the only ones who auditioned for it. So, Kai's a little annoyed now and wants to talk to the leader and bursts into the room. Now, we are finally meeting a third-year student named Louie, who is a red deer. As well, we see Lugoshi in the room too. Louie tells Kai he's been taken off the acting team and rerouted to the stage crew as a stagehand, also the PR team. Outside the room, we have members trying to listen in on what's happening inside the leader room. Then we're introduced to Shira, who is a cheetah and also the choreographer for the club, as well as Mukichi, who is a badger and a sound designer. Both are third-year students and in the leader team too. Returning back inside the room, Louie is bringing up how Kai messed up twice on previous dances in the Adler performances, live on 2 separate occasions. Kai gets upset and tries to punch Louie, but Lugoshi blocks it. Kai backs down and leaves angrily. Louie sexually harasses Lugoshi by touching his tail and wants his help, since Lugoshi is a, quote, big bad wolf, and Louie wants to put it to good use. Since this isn't a hentai, we find out in Chapter 3 that just means he wants Lugoshi to stand guard while they use the gem to rehearse during a flashback. Also, we're seeing Zoe, the goat who was shirtless earlier being inside the room with Legoshi and Loey. This is assumed to be after Louis ropes Legoshi's tail. Louis also bullies Zoe after they couldn't say their lines and goes for some good old racism, assuming Zoe ate the script since he's a goat. Then Louis, still being in the good mood to molest someone, goes to Legoshi and tries to carnivore bait him, I guess?
Now we're back to the present with Legoshi outside the gym as Louie and Zoe are inside rehearsing. More Legoshi just saying batshit crazy stuff, and we got even crazier shit like him analyzing a herbivore who is nearby and asking himself weird AF questions. Then he decides to go feral, then chased and grabbed the small herbivore who is a rabbit. Then that's the end of chapter 3. Take it away, Jack!
Chapter 4 starts with the Wabbit's point of view, who seems very distraught in life and gets bullied. Her name is Haru, a dwarf rabbit that seems calm, even though she's in grave danger. We're given flashbacks of time Haru is seen as a loner and ignored by others constantly. We learn that Sally the squirrel from the drama club is her roommate, and tells us about some girl being mad at Haru for something she did. That girl, who's supposedly wronged by Haru, is revealed to us after a nut being dropped onto Haru's head, as being a Harlequin rabbit named Mizuchi. Seems like Mizuchi's boyfriend, who is also a Harlequin rabbit, wanted some Harusi. And that's why Mizuchi is very angry at Haru, since they're an endangered species, and Haru is in the way of their relationship. Now, be seen from Haru's point of view, prior to getting grabbed by a gooner. Legoshi. Now, on to chapter 5.
Gooner Legoshi still has Haru in his arms and is saying lots of weird stuff. Get a weirder encounter of his inner Gooner thoughts wanting him to eat her. While being reluctant to find the urge, Zoe calls out to Legoshi and snaps him out of it. Then Haru runs away. Zoe and Legoshi enter the gym to see an injured Louie, who fell off the stage, trying to protect Zoe, who was going to trip off the stage since it was dark, even though goats can see well in the dark, but okay. We had to presume Zoe is just dumb AF. This makes you think, since Louie is built up as being someone who has a knack for choosing the best actors, when he chose this doof. This is one of the times we gotta criticize the writing. So, Louie now has a leg injury, and then Legoshi sees himself as black, then breaks a mirror because he's racist confirmed.
Chapter 6 opens with Legoshi sleeping and being weird, but then Paula wakes him up and drags him out of bed. No, seriously, the canines of Room 7-1 are properly introduced to us here as they go to the cafeteria for breakfast. We're also told about how the dorms of this school divide the animals by their biological family. As they arrive to the cafeteria, we have Durham reading out today's carnivore lunch. And we're getting an explanation that eating meat is prohibited by law. So the school gives out meat-free alternatives, like today's special, which is toast with scrambled eggs and a bean steak. Next, we have a feline-looking student that almost steps on a smaller student. Then the feline student has a seat next to Legoshi and Jack. Then asks Legoshi if he still thinks he'd look good in glasses. Legoshi says yeah, but we see Jack looking at Legoshi worryingly, since Legoshi is still being a baby over almost eating Haru earlier. He even says this cringy line. Then we're interrupted by two carnivore students arguing, and then Legoshi bursts out to tell them to stop it, but immediately regrets it. What Jack thinks and acts like here is literally us reading this whenever we see Legoshi being written weirdly like this. Prior to this, Fox and Legoshi about to go at it, Louis steps in and breaks it up with some good old carnivore racism and slander he does all the time. The Fox gives us the segue to us learning about the Beastar, since we know Louis is trying to be it due to his prestigious background. I try to help explain what the Beastar even is, but it makes no sense and is pretty dumb from this current viewpoint of what it means. Then we have Louis leaving as the end to chapter 6.
Chapter 7 begins while we're midway into the rehearsal of Adler as Santa calls for a break, since he noticed Louis is being more stale. In response, Louis reaffirms everyone that they need to do their best for the new students to see the importance of the drama club. Then, does his signature racist remarks towards the carnivores as usual. We're now shown the backstage as well as being introduced properly to Kai as well as 3 others. Kibi, an anteater, Budge, a red panda, and then a third year named Dom, who is a befoul and stage crew leader. They're all working on costumes as Kai whines about being here, but Dom compliments Kai's sewing and that eases him a bit. While we have Legoshi daydreaming about Louis and how hard he must be working, she then gets snapped out of it by Dom, who asks him to get roses for decorating the assembly hall and for use in the play from the garden club. Legoshi accepts, but gets Kibi to come along since he's worried that him being a carnivore might be worrying to the garden club members. Prior to them opening the door, Legoshi smells something. When it's opened, we see what he was smelling. The Harasi. And that's everything you need to know in Volume 1. I can quit